Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello from the Spanish countryside. Somewhere we would rather be at this point in the year because it's sunny, it's warm, it's got great beaches, the lifestyle is absolutely fantastic. But that's not why we're here tonight. We're here for another round of the V8 Veterans Championship and another step in the calendar on our way to season victory, and most importantly, another opportunity to add ingredients to the V8 Veterans Vindaloo. And Dan Yeaman's going to be joining myself for your coverage again here tonight. Simon Mazzomo not unfortunately available. He'll be back next week, actually. Really looking forward to covering an event with Mez. But in the meantime tonight, Dan, it's a lovely Thursday evening, and I think it's time to get ourselves all settled in, all snuggled up. I've got some lovely, nice, warm clothing on. I'm cuddled in. I think I'm in for a good night here.
Sounds like a pretty good plan all the same. Yeah. Hopefully this will be about the second last time you'll need to hear me on the microphone this for the V8 Vet season here, at least this time by at least. And then, yeah, indeed, Scott and Simon sharing the microphone duties well, one more time after tonight, and then we get to it indeed. But as you suggested, settling ourselves in here, the northwestern corner of Spain, where we will find Barcelona in the state of Catalonia here. But zoom on down to the circuit, and again, after racing Interlagos last week, home of the Brazilian Grand Prix, we now come to the modern home, at least, of the Spanish Grand Prix for our venue tonight. Running the historic configuration, which, in saying that, Scott, is a lot more akin to being the modern configuration once again, after revisions to the circuit brought this configuration back up to Grade 1 or FIA Grade 1 specification for four-wheeled motorsport. Of course, the adjustments to the hairpin there at turn 10, I believe it would have been 2 years ago now, a lot similar to this older, historic and more flowing config. And now we can say goodbye to the chicane there in between turns 13 and 14 and have that nice flowing run to the end of the lap these days.
Yeah, that's it. It's nice and flowing. MotoGP, very similar to this layout. In fact, very close to this layout. Slight little changes down at turn 10, but average speed incredibly high tonight. That means on throttle time, Dan, is going to be incredibly high as well, and that means guys will have an opportunity to play a little bit of the old strategy game. 43 laps the distance, just over 200 kilometers, which means this one is going to fly by in a heartbeat. 80 liters the initial fuel capacity, or was it fill up to 111 liters worth of fuel as well? So there is a hole in that tank, but we've got to get to about lap. Look, I'm going to say if there's a safety car on lap 10, you're going to see, I think, most of the field dive in to see if they can make it home.
Yeah, I'd say lap 10 would be about where you think you can make it home if a safety car is called. That's what the graph looks like in terms of the fuel numbers here this evening. Don't actually have to quite fill it up at lap 14 if you're going flat out, but if you want to try and stretch that fuel, maybe come in lap 13, top it all the way up and burn a tiny bit less than our upper side limit of about 3.75 litres per lap. Maybe you're down at 3.7. Come in lap 13, take a little bit, maybe not it's about half a second extra in the pit lane to actually get that tank fully filled up. We're looking at there are also some pit delta times based on well, the estimated refueling time as well as transit time thanks to Joel real timing. Looking tonight, the pit stop being about a 55-second delta when it comes to coming back out on track versus where you came in from the flow in the field. So that'll be one to keep in mind if we do get a green flag pit stop cycle this evening. Of course, we didn't get that last week with all of the safety cars at the start of the race. So
what have I missed? What have I missed, Dan?
It was a bloodbath into Lagos last week. 3 safety cars in 15 laps made for crazy start to proceedings. Before we go to the grid, though, real quick at how things came out of that race into Lagos, and it's quite quickly looking like it's going to be a 2-horse race for the championship here in season number 16 between Scott Gamble and Mike Taliantich. And despite there being a 2-horse race, Scott, I have to say Scott might even have, Scott Gamble might have one hand on that title already. A 40-point margin is certainly nothing to snuff at here in the veterans, given it's only 4 points difference between a win and second place, although there are bonus points that also have to be contended with as well. Third on back, though, that is absolutely up for grabs from anyone in that group, and plenty of drivers outside the 10 as well that we can't show here tonight before we get going, at least in terms of what's up.
One of the ones I do actually want to point out, and I think this is crucial, because if you're saying there's 3 safety cars last week, I think the drivers have sort of been put on notice. Generally, they don't mince words here at the V8 Veterans. I actually kind of like that. I'm a big fan. Like, stuff it. If the kids are playing up, you will be told naughty corner, and V8 Veterans don't mince their words. They say naughty corner, they send you over there, and they raise a wooden spoon up and gesture it in your general direction. You get the message very, very loud and clear. One of those drivers, Ken Latta, serving a 1 race stand down. That means effectively his drop round gone for the season. He cannot afford bad finishes right throughout the season. That is going to be critical. We'll be talking about that tonight. Catalonia, quite wide. Interlagos, I thought was reasonably wide. And generally creates great racing. Apparently, I missed something. I'm going to have to go back and go searching for that broadcast and watch that one back. Tire wear, though, Dan Yeaman, this track is very, very heavy on the front right tire. Sorry, front left tire, wrong one.
Yeah, front left will be absolutely murdered here tonight, so we'll have to watch out for that indeed. But unfortunately, Scott, we've got about a minute till the green flag, so let's rifle through your grid here before we get things underway. It'll be Scott Gamble and Darren Lobb swapping their spots on the front row for tonight, with Gamble getting the pole position there on the, will be inside for turn 1. Stewie Hall behind him, P3, with Latham next to him in P4. Matt Vanderkraan, Greg Sharp, P5, P6, P7 and 8 going to go Chad Lewis and Bruce Tannick. 9 and 10 going to go to Craig Friend and Dave Kirby to kick this one off.
Yeah, and then we'll throw it over to 11th and 12th. Jeff Thomas, maybe a little bit further down than he necessarily would have liked. Great qualifying performance from David Nash. Off of the 6th row of the grid is going to be Brenton Nietzsche and Peter Vanderkraan. Best qualifying performance of the season for Peter. He will be looking for a strong night tonight. Moving 1 row further back, Travis Hunt and Michael Stewart. Travis, again, up and down the field, slides in and slides out some weeks. Chris Miller's in there and amongst it as well. Damien Cairns off alongside of him. Robert Crisdale and Ty Byrne are going to be in along behind those guys as well. And then that's going to throw us all the way back to Scott McCune and Scotty Van Loon, which is 21st, 22nd. Todd Duggan and Paul Warwick will be the row in behind them. Tim Nicol, Michael Quain, Daniel Hall, Stephen Kennedy, Jason Fewens, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a Jason Fewens fan, 29th, and Jamie McKnight off alongside of him. Flavel, Crosby, Hoffman, Cesar, Banks, Latham, Blanchard, Brenton O'Brien, Matty Parker right down at the rear of the field. He's going to be in trouble, and we are off and racing from circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia. The run down to turn number 1. Listen to the V8 engines roar as everyone tries to find where the room is for them. Who's going to swing it all the way out to the right-hand side? It's the 1, 2, 3. You better believe that's the Mag and Turbo entry, because here comes Bruce Tannick, looking to try and get around the outside. Slot himself into 6. He's dropped back to 8. Where he was in that first corner. He had an opportunity to pick up some spots. There is one backwards, way down the back end of the field of Stephen Banks, who's facing in the wrong direction. It was only a self-spin by the look of things. Didn't quite catch whether or not there was contact, but he will have something for race control to review. In the meantime, the fighting continues way up in front. Who's in fuel save mode? Who's looking up a tread? Peter Vanderkraan, though, after a phenomenal qualifying performance, is a sitting duck right there on the inside of turn number 5 as they try and settle themselves down in, Dan. Well, we said maybe it's going to be a sedentary night. V8 Veteran says, yeah, no, well, there'll be none of that.
Oh, it's bloodbath already, although not quite as bad as Interlagos, I'd say, because, yeah, we had an absolute shock of a lap. One is Ty Byrne over the curb there through the 8-9 chicane. Apple Cesar here in the dirt. Oh, wherever Ty Byrne's dropped way down the order already. And in fact, so quickly, I can't even pick him up. There he is, unfortunately. Oh, dear. Oh, we've got, who there might that be? O'Brien in the 26 ERT entry is now, it looks like Vanderkraan got checked up and all of that, trying to get going as well. It was still like 3 wide around the circuit here in the back of the field, trying to sort things out here on that one. Everyone is jostling for position, something fierce. And other than that, Mike Taliancic is P4 now. I don't know where he had anything his name tonight, but starting 40th out of the 43 cars that start of this race. That's a little out of order for Tally, and definitely going to put him on the back foot. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sort of trying to get out there. I guess is, yeah, we're also aware that with Ken Lana missing around, as you said, Scott, due to which is license points accumulation related. Also expecting qualifying bans for Christian Smart in the 999, as well as Chad Bigger.
Oh, Brenton O'Brien.
Yeah. And safety car is scrambled.
So that was the car that was indeed smoking after the chicane in the middle of the lap, and he's made it as far as the turn 10 hairpin. Ultimately, that is going to be an interesting shot at the end of the post-race, but I was thinking that he might want to make it to the end of the race before taking the advantage of any photo opportunities. Not so for Brenton O'Brien, and it'll be a tough night for him to recover that one. In the meantime, Darren Lobb got a great jump. He's got control of the field. We move into safety car, and it's lap 2, Dan. I'm thinking the last lap of the safety car here, the very last lap of the safety car, will present some opportunities. And there were a couple cars up and down the field, including Peter van der Kraan, Stephen Kennedy, a number of drivers that have been involved in incidents. You just take of that one, 30 litres of free fuel. When you're already in a bad position, it's a no-brainer for those guys.
See here, yep, Lobb going to pile on into the pit lane, and colour me not surprised that he will be one of the ones to signal there with us here. Most people going in. Matt van der Kraan going to be the first one, though, to say, I'm staying out, I believe. Yeah, everyone else looks to be in. So the 180 sister car will stay out. Jeff Thomas also going to follow on through. It's a game of who's staying out, who's going to go through. Nitschke follow on through. I'm seeing, look at that there, indeed. Yeah, that's a lot more people that I would have expected staying out, but nevertheless, there we go.
I reckon it's about half the field. It's a little bit less than half the field. I've got the first 15 or so cars have gone through. Yeah, so it's a little bit less than half of the field. Somebody else has actually just continued on as well, which was down towards the tail end. Taliancic has opted to take the track position, which is absolutely in his best interests. It might be Duggan. It was a little bit in behind Todd Duggan. It was Andrew Hoffman was the last car that did not pit. So 17th on the back. Your pit stoppers. It was just near it. Darren Lobb absolutely pushed on as soon as that safety car was called. He wanted to come into the pit lane with a big of a margin over everyone in behind him. And David Nash didn't fill the tank up.
Nope, not even close, Scott. He's basically put fuel on to cover his tyre change, and that's it. So he is 9 odd seconds short on fuel relative to everyone else. So Darren Lobb is an example of someone who's filled the tank here off the start of this race. David Nash, in about half that, so he would have gotten in. He's lucky he gets in 20 litres there, maybe more like 18 litres to make sure he covered tyres only.
But we're only looking at, that's about half the tank. Yes, half of the gap. Maybe a little, after one lap's worth of racing, you expect another 3.5 litres going out of that. So to be bang on half of the missing volume in the tank. So we'd have a 15-litre gap that he's going to have to make up on all the other cars to pit. But that has bought him some track position. He will be a little bit quicker. He won't wear the tyres as bad. That weight will be down. Look, if you're out of order, if you're out of sequence, I don't hate it. 2 drivers that'll tell that story perfectly. Matt van der Kraan has stayed out. Jeff Thomas has stayed out. Brett Nitschke. Those are your front 3. Michael Stewart, Travis Hunt. All drivers that needed to buy themselves some track position. Scott McKean was down at 20th place. And Matty Parker as well was at the rear end of the field. Michael Taliancic, rear end of the field, all the way through. Safety cars breed safety cars, Dan. Could we see chaos with some of the guys trying to get aggressive and get overtakes done? This may work out to be a smart decision because this keeps you free of the melee.
It does, yeah. Now I'm going to try and backtrack here while we're still under yellow. See if we can pick up for you all, folks, what exactly... try and pick up all the things that happened on lap 1. Because there were a couple of critical incidents to note, but we'll try and first of all pick up exactly how bad things were for Brenton O'Brien to need to tow back to the pit lane there. Unfortunately, but looking at things, a lot of drivers caught up in and with each other as a result of multiple moments that happened in that race. I'll hopefully have that for you in just a moment. And I've got running out of time to get it done anyways, because we're going to have one more lap of safety car here.
So Brenton O'Brien was involved in the incident the first lap at the chicane. So turn 7, turn 8, and he's made it another few corners after that. So this is the first incident.
This is checking up because of Peter Van Kraan. So he goes off track to where we've got Blanchard, I think I just saw there in the background. Nope, another car in black and green colours spun around. So not quite there for Brenton. It was further on down the line. Not trying to jump forward there.
I think we can stick with this because this is going to tell the story, which is critical. Have a look at all the checking up that's going on with this one. Gets down the inside of Blanchard that might have been. Spinner to the left,
yep.
Spinner to the right. That's Peter. No, that's Matt Van der Kraan. And then, well, didn't thread the needle.
Yeah. I mean, very hard to thread the needle in that circumstance, I would argue as well. You've got cars either side of you there. That would have made a right mess of things. Let's see if we can jump back one more time. You got, Tobin almost rolling back a little bit across the circuit from hard left to. So yeah, Hoffman goes around there, clips it back of Chad Vigor, and then you Tyburn just moving ever so slightly from left to centre as they've got their Stephen Kennedy, number 55, M1 Racing Mustang. He doesn't really have anywhere to go and all that there either on the grass already. And unfortunately, that was just about it done, and I believe. The steering is completely fried on the 26. I'm not too surprised that Brenton try as he might here, Scott. Wasn't going to be able to get that car back to the pit lane too well, because that would have been a heck of a mess to try and get back there.
Well, the engine's still working at that point. I think it expires very, very shortly thereafter. Either way, he's back out there. Unfortunately for him, not in the best of opportunities. Safety car has just pulled away from the head of the field, so we will see a restart in just a few moments. Brenton O'Brien, the only car to one lap down. Peter Van der Kraan to the rear. Ty Byrne, Christian Smart, Chris Blanchard, Peter Latham, I believe, were a fair few of those cars that were involved. Stephen Banks was one of the cars that was around at the first corner. In the meantime, this presents an opportunity for Matt Van der Kraan. If he can jump clear of this field and start setting sail, this may be an opportunity for him to chalk up another one of those podium performances we've been expecting from him. He hasn't had the pace this season. Whether or not he stepped back, had to take a little bit less time. But field will be in his hands. Wonder how late he's going to go here, Dan.
Well, looks like the answer so far is he's biding his time until the penultimate corner. He'll put the foot down there now. Get this race back underway as we head round the final turn. And that looks to be a good jump for him indeed, because Jeff Thomas in behind, already feeling a little bit of the heat from Brenton Nitschke in third place as they'll come across the line and get this race back under green flag conditions.
One of the big factors I think that's made him jump out as early as he possibly can is have a think about the guys that are deeper in that pack. He wants to start that field spread early, and he's going to jump out. Now it's going to be Jeff Thomas right underneath his rear wing, looking to really throw the assault at Matt Van der Kraan. In the meantime, have a look at Travis Hunt a little bit deeper in the pack, still trying to barely hang on to that spot. And Scotty Van Loon, who was in the cars that did not pit, has received himself a black flag, so he will be removed to the tail end of the field. Should have taken the stop if he thought he was potentially going to be serving a penalty. Now it's just going to be basically race over for Scotty Van Loon. In the meantime, watch them all feed down into turn number 5, Repsol corner. Field spread. We've got to keep our eyes, though, on in and around 15th place. Darren Robb has not gone anywhere. Neither has Nash, nor has Scott Gamble. None of them have gained spots on this restart as of yet.
It's a slow start for the time being, it would seem. But fuel and the tyres, and they'll be okay for now, given that the green flag pit delta is costly. At least expected delta for a stint, 20 seconds, let alone any service time. So by knocking off 18 of the 35 seconds of service, as expected here tonight, they still do have about another 18, 19 seconds of pit stationary time that will still have to come and complete. But really, in Darren Lobb's hands, he's now got a car that should perform a little better than the cars ahead of him. That tyre advantage is minute, given they only got one lap at speed. But also, given his pace, I'm sure he'll be in good stead as our Van Loon down the tower. Here we go, unfortunately. And that's a spot for Lobb in the process. He's see no real signs
So
of moves this time by Turbo in front of the field at least.
Just another question, Dan. So you said the amount of fuel that needed to be added in terms of time. What was that time again?
About 35 seconds. I can give you the exact number. We're expecting a fuel drop tonight. It's 81.5 litres required to be added.
Okay. And then we're expecting a pit lane delta in around, what, 26, 27 seconds, I thought you said pre-show as well?
20 seconds to just transit the lane, stop in your box momentarily. Full service if you got all 80 litres in one stop, 35 seconds on top of that. So total end-to-end transit with service, about 55 seconds.
So effectively,
That's
the marker...
versus green flag running, mind you.
The marker Van der Kraan's got to make up over Darren Lobb is going to be in that, what, 15 to 20 second range is what we're looking for. He gets that out, he's effectively leading the race.
If he could pull 20 seconds on Darren Lobb in this phase of the race, yeah, he would be within standing a genuine chance to actually contest for the race win.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you were watching along at home, Darren Lobb or Scott Gamble or David Nash, you've got to keep your eyes on those cars and their gaps to anyone ahead of them. If you one of those cars, you're a fan of one of the cars that has yet to pit, add up the numbers ahead of them on the road, looking for about that 20-second number. That's what you'll be looking for, and that's what we were keeping an eye on as the night progresses. Already on to lap number 6 and about to start lap number 7. And Craig Friends has an issue right down the back end of things, so... couple slow cars, and it's in those last two corners, so it's that back section. David Kirby, that's unusual.
Looks like both Craig Friend and David Kirby trouble together in the lap. And, Chad Lewis on the radio as well. Chad's currently in 28th place and still going, but yeah, Todd Duggan and Chad Lewis and Craig Friend and David Kirby, all four having moments on that lap. Possible Chad Lewis's one is connected somewhat with Friends in Kirby's. Take a chance to have a look at the replay of at least what happened to Friend and Kirby, because they're basically right on top of each other. If you might get a chance to see what happened perhaps to Chad Lewis and Todd Duggan, that might also answer some questions. Okay, so that's... oh dear, that's not a good look there for David Kirby.
Yeah, he said apologies straight away on the radio, so, sorry, in the in-sim communications, not on the radio. It was in the text chat straight away.
This is moments before at the turn 10 hairpin. Chad Lewis looking up the inside of Todd Duggan. That's who was on the inside of the corner there. Right as we cut back, cut to seeing then the moment happen ahead of him there on the circuit. So 7th round for Todd Duggan, completely independent and lost all that's been happening on replay. Rollers and talks to Darren Crosby on the radio. Has lost a bunch of spots on this lap as well. So moments popping up here and there.
Oh, look at the elbows out just in behind these guys as well for Christian Smart. I saw the SimSpeed Sim Racing livery, and that would be him and Peter van der Kraan. I think, no, it's not Peter van der Kraan. My sincere apologies. Wasn't it teammates banging doors? You bet your bottom dollar it was.
Interesting here, that's for sure. Meeting, yes indeed, teammate Jamie Knight returning to the series after a couple of weeks off as Darren Lobb just picked off LL Cesar in the timing towers. That puts him into 12th place. We'll come back to the scrap here and see Lobb is certainly putting the hammer down. Scott Gamble's also been able to finally clear David Nash, who's dropped back in behind Stewie Hall as well. So our leaders of those who are on fresh tyres and fuel, getting a bit mixed up here. Stewie Hall is now effective 3rd in this race. The 49 making his way back up past Nash there, who, don't forget, also has that shorter stop. He owes us in this one, as well as Teliancic further up the road without having to stop. He's trying to get by Dan Hall, but not quite done just yet here as we round up towards turn 7 and 8.
Yeah, you get down the inside. Very difficult enough. It's a taking move done there. And it's assisted through Dan Hall, running a little bit in hot. Crisscross time now as he tries to set the bumper to Paul Warwick. He won't need much more assistance. And Taliancic picks off 2 in a chicane and an extra corner. I was going to say 2 in 2 corners. It's actually 3 if you count them all.
Pull this one up here nice. He's in hot though for turn 10. That gives Warwick half a chance. On the exit is a wiggle as well. They're trying to get across to the left side of the circuit to open up turn 11 here. Dan Hall now eyeing off Warwick. And then it's Matty Parker, who's the last of our cars yet to pit, followed by Darren Lobb. Problem for him, though, is he now gets checked up in behind all of this. These guys here still going at it now. Hall trying to defend aggressively from these guys here as they'll come off the corner. Now, Darren Lobb eyeing off Matty Parker. You think he will look to the inside of turn 1.
Yeah, waits, lurks, pops out as soon as he has no more time to wait, right as he gets to that rear bumper, and he will pick off one more for Darren Lobb. Up to 11th now, but the key factor is, with all this battling going on, the lead for Matt van der Kraan over the first of our drivers that have taken fuel is now 8 seconds. He's got to find 12 more. But for now, it is working and that margin is growing. And for every car that Darren Lobb overtakes, it gets that little bit tougher in the meantime. Lines up Paul Warwick down at turn number 5. Gets down the inside at Repsol. Now he's on the outside at turn number 6. This might be Paul Warwick fighting it back. Should he get drive out and around the outside from Darren Lobb? He's going to line him up. They rub, they touch, they tangle. Warwick is still on the inside as they head to the chicane. He's going to run him wide. And the fishy entry of Paul Warwick is still banging doors with who's our effective race leader. Here comes Lobb. Lobb will give him one more hip and shoulder and finally gets the job done. Another second though gain for Matt van der Kraan. And van der Kraan's looking at all these guys and going, thanks boys, fight it on a little bit harder if you don't mind.
He needs this, that's for sure, but my word, that certainly went all the way to the bitter end there as Warwick will just hang on ahead of Matty Parker, and Scott Gamble trying to eye his way through. Over the radio, also just heard that Todd Duggan going to pick out the drive-through penalty.
And Dave Kirby, double that one up.
Incident him that we didn't have a look at on replay on lap 6. And indeed, as you say, Dave Kirby, unfortunately, his incident, and, well, I say unfortunately, but in the sense that, well, his lap 6 incident and the hit there, most definitely a fairly straightforward decision I would put there in that respect.
Well, I got away for a week, and apparently the field says, well, Scotty's away, we've got to fire up, we've got to find something a little bit more fun to do on a Thursday night. Come back, and they're like, that was so much fun last week, why don't we do it again? It was a little bit settled the weeks before, and I was starting to sit here and go, oh, okay, veterans have calmed down a little bit. But no, the elbows are definitely out. I love, look, Dan, these races right here are the ones I actually really love, where there's mixed up fuel strategies. This is the interesting stuff.
See here, Scott Gamble eyeing off Warwick into turn 6. Locks the left front up, something fierce. It's turn 5, apologies. Trying to get that job done there on the inside, but can't get it done with, well, can't get the drive out. And we'll have to line him up again. And of course, Scotty wants on through because Darren Lobb is the next one up the road, and he's picking off drivers almost one a lap now by Dan Hall into 8th place, or 9th place for him. And his margin is now about 8.9 seconds. You can see there on the tower. That's the gap to the race leader for the time being. And I think now, with about 3 seconds ahead of him to Mike Tanliansich, who's car in front at this point in time, I think we'll be seeing here these two. Well, she should say it was Tally and Gamble last week. What you missed was an absolute firecracker of a race between them. Darren Lobb just happened to be there, I guess, by virtue of also being on pace. Those three sort of being to the pace of the field, but my word, the Tally and Gamble scrap, that was something fierce, and you can see Aaron's got 2.6 seconds to go find to latch onto the back of the 21. I'm more than happy to do so as Nitschke and Jeff Thomas have exchanged places at turn 1 for second place.
Yeah, so this will be important as well, because now Jeff Thomas has got to get his elbows out and defend from the pack in behind. Matt van der Kraan has stepped a little bit away from these guys, now out to 1.2 seconds, so you can see the margin now out ahead of these boys. Thomas, though, looks like he might have been a little bit of a cork in the bottle. Remember Nitschke a couple of rounds ago from Detroit Belial, was it, where he picked up a podium that he hasn't seen in a while? Stewart nearly goes bowling into the back of Jeff Thomas. Thomas at the moment is getting absolutely harassed, and now Travis Hunt is going to swap paint with Michael Stewart all at the same time. What do you tell these guys that there is 200 kilometres to this race, and we've only knocked off 50 of them?
Yeah, no, it's early. It's not early days, it's race day. That's the only one that matters here. Is Travis Hunt once again providing us onboard shots thanks to his VR feed. We also have the same can be said Michael Stewart in behind him here, who's also made a couple of tweaks to his camera feed for us this evening. Actually going with the the background replacement here, so actually try and put him in the hot seat here which kind of definitely feels the part here. Now P5, up second back to Robert Crisdale, and trying to stay here with the Thomas and Hunt JWME Motorsport duo as they wind and here to complete only lap 11 of this race.
Yeah, look, maybe I'll have to get my webcam up for when I'm racing. I think I'd rather put myself in a pool somewhere hot, somewhere lovely, somewhere with a great beach. Oh, how about Barcelona? I'll tell you what, northeastern section of the Iberian Peninsula. It's a loved, famed holiday destination in terms of Europe. You head west. If you're over in Europe to get some sun and sand, you get a little bit of beach. You might head down to Greece, but no, Barcelona will do just the same. And if you're over there, you might enjoy yourself some football as well. In the meantime, Matt van der Kraan is out trying to kick goals, but it's Brenton Nietzsche that's playing keeper and is keeping him out. He's taken 4 or 5 tenths out of him in the last couple of laps, so he is coming. Van der Kraan might be under a little bit of threat, and this is important for Brenton Nietzsche because, again, let's talk that margin. Nietzsche's got to push on here.
He does. Certainly does indeed. Keeping that gap to a second. In behind, critically what we're seeing here, looking at, in fact, let me bring it up on the screens. Let's grab the leader and this man here, Mr. Darren Lobb, and show you how they're going here on circuit at the moment. To be honest, I'd have to say for Van der Kraan, only losing about 4 tenths of that last lap. Not too bad on this lap. Looks like he's lost another 2 or another 3 to 4 tenths, I'd say, again. So that margin starting to be chipped away, and I think that's more case now, given that we are on lap 12 of this race. Only had the one safety car on the end of start of lap 2. We're now really seeing just a pace differential more than a tyre differential at this point in time. Lob just chipping away and making sure that drivers here in front do not have an advantage or chance to make it home. Start lap 13. If you wanted to try and gamble on getting an undercut strategy in here, I guess you could do it now as well if you get to pit in this race, but it's going to be a hard task to match.
Look, a little bit deeper in the pack, from about 24th down back to 34th. You want to get that battle pack graphic out and get it ready? You want to add 11 drivers to that one? It's no Daytona, mind you. There's not going to be a full battle pack graphic, but that's it. Have a look at that entire main straight. That's such a long run off of the last corner all the way down into turn number 1. And 24th to 29th.
Go that for starters. That seems somewhat realistic. Back to Darren Crosby here in the 66 M1 Racing Mustang, although it almost then fractions into 2 groups of 3 there through turns 2 and 3, the long sweeping opening corners of this circuit. Really test your ability to make sure you hit the marks and get the line right around this place. And then again, a long right-hander which makes up turn 4 this circuit. Let's see here, Crosby just trying to find a way past Michael Quain, but no dice. 5 this time by at least. Let's settle in and try again. So yeah, you're not wrong. Can stretch the numbers if we play with the numbers here. There's a little moment again for Ty Burn there off of the sausage curb at turn 8, almost getting into trouble.
It surprises me every single time I see racing here how much of that sausage curb you can actually take, and there's no real limitation. It's more how much will the car take is the limitation.
Yeah, that would be okay. I'll do the 11 that you're looking for. That's what it looks like. And you know what? They're all under a second. I'll take that. Inverville's just close enough that I'd say it counts.
I'm just enjoying this drive from Peter Latham because he was not 100% confident on moving up to top split. He's been lurking in and around second split. You know, John's been working with him. They're just enjoying racing together, was what they said at the start of the season when they got a few conversations, a few little bits of chats with them. You know, running in 2 different splits, there was 2 real different sorts of conversations. Now they can pick and work on strategy together. There's a few good father-son partnerships in terms of Australian sim racing. Have you ever heard of Jack Boyd and Glenn Boyd?
I have indeed heard of the Boyds. I've raced against Jack personally a couple of times. Not race against Glenn, but have commentated and seen Glenn race.
He's come a long way of late, Glenn. The first few times I saw him, he was a little bit of a mid-pack driver, was just sort of starting to pick up his trade. So it does work. And the other thing is Glenn Boyd's now front runner in some of the series that I've seen him in. So, you know, Peter Latham, keep your eyes on him. Might be worth keeping half an eye on maybe next season. It does take time. You got to sit down, you got to put the time in, you got to get consistent. on the drivers. It is putting the time in and is slowly getting the rewards to Chris Blanchard. First, you've got to break into top split. Then you've got to start churning away at it, learning to drive around a few other guys, because it's a different style of driving when you move your way up through the echelons down. The elbows come out sometimes a little bit more, but they know how to do it up here.
Yeah, this is some of the fiercest racing I've seen. I mean, I think I've seen quite a few V8 leagues. These guys, sure, they're not necessarily all right at the upper echelon, but this is the peak for those, for our older drivers in the community. And certainly now, after 2.5 seasons, it's certainly not letting up anytime soon here in Split 1 of the V8 veterans, that's for sure. And yeah, it's always, yeah. Last week felt like an anomaly in some respects because it was so crazy in terms of what happened. It's a little more calm here, only the one safety car. But, making things work here. Scott McCune's going to be next on the chopping block for Darren Lobb. There you go, crisscross. And so turn 4, McCune is going to try... Oh, actually tries to get on with it because Darren was in a bit hot there at turn 4. Just gives that bumper a bit of a kiss in the process, but otherwise... Places exchange and race carries on. Lobb now up to P8 and inside 8 seconds of the race lead as well.
Yeah, Jeff Tomlin's really starting to fall back after setting that fastest lap of the race. Has dropped 2.5 seconds now to Brenton Nitschke, so he's struggling a little bit in tyre wear. And have a look at the gap starting to form up at the front. That tells me that the dirty air is playing its part. In the meantime, we've got to keep our eyes through the field. Dan Hall, Scott McCune, Paul Warwick and Matty Parker in and around that 10th to sort of 15th mark. All of those drivers have not yet pit, so they are indeed out of sequence, and they're going to be a long way back by the time they do. The drivers that are on the lead lap, Peter van der Kraan has pit on lap 14, so he has come in and filled his final service. I think Dave Kirby did come through the pit lane on lap number 10, but that was to serve a drive-through. Same with Todd Duggan. So Peter van der Kraan and Andrew Hoffman are the two drivers who've already served their final stop of the night, and add to them Scotty Van Loon as well. So he has already been through pit lane. If we get a safety car, they may be the big winners, but it's a very long way to go from here.
The biggest problem I have with saying is that they're set and they're ready to go from here. The biggest problem I've got with it all is that they've taken a green flag stop. It's going to mean that they're way out of sequence. Everyone else here will keep racing around. If we get another safety car for whatever reason, they'll jump on in, take that service, and then they won't lose as much time. The thing is, they'll have fresher tyres as a result too. Because the pit window is now open. It opened back on lap 14 to be able to come on in, fill it up and bring it on home for everyone who's on the lead lap of this race. Critically, you see the gaps growing. It's actually been shrinking pretty steady, because it was around 9/10 a second. Brendan Nitschke's bringing it down towards half a second here on Matt van der Kraan, fluctuating in around 5 to 6 tenths. In behind them, you can actually see things getting a little interesting here. Aaron Law there in the background, he's closing. Gap now at, well actually sorry, still at 8 seconds. He hasn't really made progress on this lap just yet, at least. It's holding steady for the time, for this lap at least.
Put it this way, that marker was out at about 9.5 seconds for him. Scott Gamble was, I think, up at around 11 at one stage. They've both taken time out, but we're in that pit lane window. Scotty Van Loons just came to the lane as well. That'll be for his final service. That will actually eliminate him from the leader's grasp in terms of traffic. All of the cars, the bulk of the cars are from the start-finish straight, start-finish line, all the way down to turn number 10. And Tim Nichols just had an incident as well. He's jumped on the radio and not incredibly pleased with something that's going on that lap. So now in the meantime, Scott Gamble get down the inside of Scott McHugh. And it's called by Scott Rankin. Line them up. There's 3 Scots. Do I win a prize?
It depends what kind of a prize you're looking for. Prize of I was going to say the prize of not cursing Mr. McCune just yet. Do we want to go with that one there? I wanted to bring up this again, and unfortunately that's not going to be on the last lap very much. As I said there, progress with Darren Lobb, it's been fairly consistent. It's just chipping away bit by bit, although on that last particular lap, actually lost a bit of ground. So things there back and forth here. But crucially, still well safe within the bubble. Would come out about 12 to 13 seconds ahead. Matt van der Kram, if they make green flag stops. And in fact, realistically, if they make stops, period, in this race, because the only way this changes is you get a safety car and van der Kram gambles a lot on fuel. And that would be quite, it would be an insane amount of, we're talking at least 25 litres gambled. A gamble of...
Wow.
Yeah, because that's what we're talking. If he wanted to stay ahead of Darren Lobb, he'd have to underfuel by about, he'd have to fuel to that same number that Darren's got left to do, so about 18 odd seconds. And by that number, it would be about 25 litres short of making it home. So he would then be relying on a lot of safety cars to stop the field up and reset things a couple of times over and over.
Another driver has come to the attention of the stewards, and Darren Crosby was calling some issues out on that most recent lap as well. So I think this one, Michael Quain has been given a drive-through penalty, I believe, is for the incident with Tim Nicol. Given that the incident for Darren Crosby was calling about something on the most recent lap, and that was strongly surprised me if Race Control have managed to handle the Tim Nicol incident and then jumped across to that one as well. So I'm sure that's Tim Nicol.
Is it? Oh, apologies. Change in time. And yeah, that will unfortunately do it there for Tim Nicol. Alton Picky's Performance Racing 23 Commodore gets a bit of a helping hand there at turn number 10. Saying that it did put him down all that far relative, but nevertheless, we might be a bit of trouble out on track for Greg Sharp, Jason Fewens. Oh dear, indeed.
That's parked up for Greg Sharp. That's now menacing a bonnet. And I have a feeling that means Greg Sharp will come into the attention of his pit crew on the current lap. He will not hang around with that one, given that we're in the pit window.
Let's bring it back here. So he's got it's Bruce Tannick, pardon me, behind him in the 1-2-3 machine. Into turn 5 here, and it's not looking too good from that angle at least. And then Jason Fewens, yeah, unfortunately, was trying to avoid all of that, I think, and just spinning car is Sharp. Nowhere to go. And that ends up being some more wounded. Meanwhile, Michael Stewart's going to dispatch of Travis Hunt down to turn 1. Start here of lap 19, although he's in quick. Can get it pulled up for turn 3, though. Just.
Yeah, just about. Real tight there as well. And don't forget that Michael Stewart got passed by Travis Hunt, was it 5-7 laps ago now? When Travis Hunt, when Michael Stewart was in deep trying to check up for the cars up ahead of him. So I think that's a return to serve from Michael Stewart. And I think he might have the pace here to step clear, although that's a pinch break. And that is Michael Taliancic peeking out from in underneath Travis Hunt's rear wing. So Taliancic has brought his way into this margin, but in the meantime, the Darren Lobb Payne train continues to close up in. He's now down to 7.5 seconds off of our race lead. Scott Gamble, as I believe, taking a little bit of time out of him as well, down to 1.3 seconds now behind Darren Lobb. So I'll be curious how deep these guys go. They might look for an undercut as well, you know.
They can come in any time, and you know, I kind of say we're. I mean, look, Darren's picked up about a second on Van der Kran since we last looked at that number about 2 laps ago. And yeah, Scott Gamble is closing up a little quicker, relatively speaking, because yeah, if he gets onto the back of this group here, it'll all suddenly compress. We've got 3 tenths here, roughly, between Stewart and Stewart and Hunt. And you've got yourself same as back to Taliancic, if that here as they come down the front stretch. You've then got Crisdale, who's actually going to bail into the pit lane. So he'll be the one to say, yeah, I'll take the undercut now on lap 19, lap 20. Get his final stop. In fact, he actually is almost out of fuel, maybe another 2 or 3 laps left in the tank as he was yet to stop in this race. He will say, yep, calling it now. Try and find some clean air. We'll see where he pops out. See if those numbers add up. To him be about a minute off the race lead. If my maths is to be believed.
Something else just happened. Jamie McKnight's just jumped on the radio. No, that was actually to the car that he was racing. I think he was actually trying to tell Tyburn to just go down the inside, crack on. And Ty did not press on with that one, so.
Well, I think that's a little hit.
It eventually got it all sorted out, but yeah, he was definitely saying get down the inside.
Out of the pit lane comes Chris Dale. Meanwhile, so crucially, out to lead 53.5 seconds off of a 30-second pit stop, and he would have been about 5 seconds, 6 seconds off the race lead. So he's only ended up going and losing about 40. That be 3.5 minus about 6, 47.5 seconds.
But do you see where he's come out as well? Just, and only just, in front of Damien Cairns. But then again, Damien Cairns, that looks like a drive-through. No. That's not a drive-through. That is Damien Cairns' second stop, I think. So...
yeah, it looks like 16 seconds second for his last stop time down the lane. That adds up.
Well, that was only a couple laps ago from Damien Cairns, where he popped out of. That's critical. Here comes the pit stops in force. Jeff Thomas is a really, really good one. This will give us a marker, and oh no for Paul Warwick. We call that one on screen. It's rare that you manage to look at a driver as he enters the pit box and he goes a fraction deep. Well, Paul Warwick, front and center. I'm sorry, friend. Your time tonight in the spotlight was caught on camera.
This will be important because Thomas is probably no more than 2 or 3 seconds ahead of Chris Dale. Stop. Let's see here as they head down towards turns 1. He will come out at about that 2-second marker. We actually, if that, 1 second perhaps. But nevertheless, he inserts himself into the clean air here with fresh tyres to his name, which means that he'll be able to press on happily. Car ahead of him. On track is Brenton O'Brien. Then the pack. Stephen Kennedy is the next car for position. And this is a big cluster of cars here. Yeah, this is everyone up to 20th. Tyburn leading this train.
Yep, and it's just been getting tighter and tighter and tighter as this race has gone on. Somebody from this pack needs to jump out and say, hey, I'm making my stop, because they will get themselves a little bit of clean air, get the opportunity to push on, and very clearly they will gain themselves a whole host of track position. It just boggles my mind that nobody has jumped out of this pack yet, given that we're at the halfway mark now in the race.
Race leader Matt van der Kraan down the pit lane. Might just have finally run out of fuel on lap 22, which roughly adds up to what I was expecting, even with a safety car.
Yeah, he cop spotted. He definitely ran out of fuel on the way into the pit box.
All right, so there you go. This is the critical mark for anyone who didn't pit, which realistically was only about 8 or 9 cars. Into the lane they come.
15 drivers, Dan.
At the moment, Tim Nicol, they're peeling off into the pit lane as we stay on board here with Chris Blanchard. See here, he'll rise up the ranks as he gains a whole bunch of spots through this cycle.
Travis Hunt's in, Daniel Hall's in, Tim Nichol's in. So van der Kraan and Hunt out of that lead pack. And this will be really, really important. This will be so important because through goes Jeff Thomas, and Jeff Thomas is going to take that race lead of the drivers who have completed their stop. So a huge jump for Jeff Thomas. That fresh set of tyres really paying the dividends there for him.
Yep, it has indeed made maximum. He did gain also a tiny bit of time. Actually, not a tiny bit of time. I should say about 2.5 seconds stationary in the box compared to van der Kraan as well. Will help his, but I think mostly we'll put that down to tyres for Thomas there, doing exactly what he'd hope they do. The drivers have been able to eke out an extra lap here. Brendan Nitschke going to be the leader of the race for a moment. Then Michael Stewart and White-Tail Ansich, but they will peel in a lane. So Darren Lobb will resume the race lead. But he will still owe us a pit stop in. Well, it's actually, I'm actually going to look up my numbers, which I do have for this. Confirm the fuel tank range on these cars tonight, because it's a fair bit longer than 21 laps they start with. 29, 30 if you want to stretch it. So
that'll get him through to about lap 33 or so.
Cool.
32, 33.
Yeah, 32, 33
looking at that, for Darren Lobb, I reckon he'll run long. Because he'll want the free air, the clear air. He'll basically just keep his eyes on the mirror every single time he comes down the pit lane. And if Scott Gamble peels in, he'll be in the very next lap. But other than that, I expect both of those drivers to go very, very long, keep themselves free of the traffic, and give themselves the opportunity to press on.
Yeah, this here is the car ahead of Darren Lobb on the circuit. Michael Quain, who is unfortunately back in 40th position, having completed his second service of the race, he'll be good to go. You can see there Darren Lobb in the background. So this is the first bit of traffic for your current leaders of the race. Bruce Tank, the drive-through penalty. I think I also heard Greg Sharp getting a post-race points penalty as well for his troubles. So that we'll see his result deducted as slightly. But now it might just be an interesting little game here. These two drivers on the same strategy. They're now clear of anyone else who is on the strategy with them. You can't quite see this happening in the background, but John Latham.
Ooh, hang on.
He sneaks his way into what could be effective P3. Just remember, he's got fuel advantage. Well, I can tell you he's got fuel advantage over David Nash, because once again, Nash, that short stop to only cover the tyre change to try and get that track position, which is still paid off for now at least, but he's lost 9 seconds cycling through traffic relative to our top two.
I'm going to make something I've just discovered picking through the order. Matt van der Kraan stopped very, very long. Michael Stewart's also been through the pit lane, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, as well. Brett Nitschke's emerged actually out ahead of him.
Up and down the order, and indeed, yeah. Thomas and Nitschke both made it work. And that's actually interesting here is Nitschke went that 1 lap longer. I'll bring this up here. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just throw up Van der Kraan's pit stop time there.
Pat Lewis is in, Ty Burns in, Stephen Banks, Stephen Kennedy, all those drivers in. Yep, but in the meantime, yep, that is indeed the... it's going to get muddled up because we're driving past the start-finish line. There you go. So it's only 0.2 of a second. And Nitschke went the lap longer?
He did go the lap longer. He's made it work on low fuel. Had just enough left in the tyres. And maybe the coughing and spluttering really hurt Van der Kraan's in-lap time. But
have a look at the pit lane end-to-end time, because that'll be... If there was coughing and spluttering in the lane, that's where it'll be. Won't be box time.
Indeed, you're very right there. That's 0.6 of a second now, I can tell you. Okay, so...
There's nothing in it. So he's lost effectively 0.8 of a second, which... excuse me, that was the margin between the two of them before they pit.
Yeah, I'm just going to
Whether or not he went deeper on the way into the lane, on the entry to the lane as well. But in the meantime, Nitschke did find his way on that lap past Jeff Thomas as well, so he's taken over the lead of these cars. How long do they... Excuse me, how long do they run is the question, though.
Well, these guys can go to the... yeah. How long do they choose to go? Oh, wait, that's what I wanted to talk to you there. That'll explain partly why Nitschke's got the overcut to work. Is he was a lot quicker on the in-lap, not coughing out of fuel, I would presume.
It's a very tight pit lane entry here. It's long, it's loaded as well, so you've got to be accurate. I think Van der Kraan, very, very much the essence of the drive is that he's just clean and concise. He won't push the margins. Always underdrives a little.
Yeah. And also, Nitschke gained 0.6 of a second on the outlap as well. So, yeah, that all adds up there. Time on the way in gained and time on the way out gained has proven very beneficial for Nitschke here to jump to could be the lead of the effective lead of the race. But this is what they have to contend with. Being 42 seconds off the race leader owes us about a 38, 39 second transit, which is not the delta down the pit lane. So
no, it'll be about 33 to 35 seconds would be the difference between it.
In fact, actually, yeah, I can run the math in my head. Should expect transit delta on its own is 20. Add in the 17 odd seconds potentially for the pit service. It could be less at this point, but I don't think so. Actually, it could be as low as 15 seconds. So yeah, I'd say optimistically for Darren Lobb, he will have a 6-second advantage over Nitschke.
Gamble's in. We'll get these questions answered because Scott Gamble's going to answer them for us.
All right then, Scott. going to force Aaron Lobb's hand then. Get the feeling, yeah, he would have been happily content running long in this race. But right on, or as we've passed the halfway mark, but not too much further past it. He will choose to bring it on in and force the hand. Let's see if this is necessary to cover off Nitschke before his tyres give an advantage. 18 seconds in the box. Gamble in the 5.43 here will pull away from his pit box, and Nitschke is, pardon me, that's Bruce Tannick. He's going by a shot. He does come out somewhat comfortably in front. Maybe a couple of seconds there, but that's not much. It's probably, actually, I'll just bring up the number. I say it's maybe this one.
Hang on. Locatelli's just come back into the pit lane.
Only 3 laps.
Jamie McKnight's got a black flag, and Taliancic does not have a black flag. I'm confused.
What has happened here for Tally indeed? Tyres change, fuel still going into the car, and oh.
He's done.
Well then.
Might have had a computer issue or something. Something's going on. There's something more that's going on there. And Jamie McKnight, I think, picked up a speeding on pit lane penalty.
Possibly,
by
but
the look of that.
He just came in to take a fast repair. Still has a black flag next to his name, so I get the feeling he's going to have another transit down the pit lane that he owes us in this one. So yeah, black flag still outstanding.
It'll be an incident point 1. Yeah.
So unfortunately for him, he will have to come by once more. Your leaders, in fact, on lap 27 now. Jamie still hanging on to the race, the lead lap of the race, but the decision was called as control out it. I think if I heard that there in the background.
Yeah, he did. He said, I wasn't issued one. I'm not 100% sure if I've got one, what the reasoning is for it. So, I mean, track limits are everywhere around here. You can pick them up in just a bunch of different spots. So it wouldn't surprise me, given where he's been in and the positions he's been in, if he hasn't banged doors one too many times and crossed the line one too many times.
Possibilities. Feel like. Yeah, just being message coming over the radio there that it might be incident point related according to what race control's willing to say over the radio at least. So he'll need to follow the instructions there, as he will actually let Darren Lobb go to carry on as the race leader. Now, still poses a pit stop at some point. Waiting on him to I mean, because he's not come in yet. Scott Gamble's still the leader of those on Australian
He's
to get home.
on, isn't he? He's not even interested.
It's interesting.
Not interested in the slightest.
The tyres are so powerful in this car, but chooses not to take the advantage now and will wait it out a little bit longer here in this race. Now, hope there's good news for Joe McKnight. He is back out on track, and it is technically his 27th lap of the race, Scott. So, for those not in the know with the vets community, Jamie has been a tireless worker for the series, and unfortunately for him, loss in the family, commiseration soul. Our sympathies to him and his family, passing of his mum Wendy earlier this week. So while it might say lap 28 on our timing stands, we'll take this lap here of Jamie's, which is his 27th of the race, just to ride with him here, Scott, and a moment for his mum Wendy. And our sympathies here from the SimSpeed comms box to him and his family. just as we ride that lap there with Jamie and take a moment of silence and pay our respects to memory of his mum Wendy. Trouble out on the circuit, Scott. Andrew Hoffman has unfortunately had technical issues and ground to a halt down at what looks like turn 1 here. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed it has. So he's just had a monitor, no visual at all from his computer, so he has no clue where he is on track. And unfortunately, that means he's just stuck at the exit of turn number 1 in a safe spot. Hasn't appeared to have collected anyone, which is the good news. But that is a car that is stricken, must be retrieved, and that means a safety car, and that means that Darren Lobb has got a pit stop to do. He's on his way out of turn number 11. He's take turn number 12 here in a few moments, and will trundle down the pit lane. The last car left to do his service, John Latham, came in whilst we were on board with Jamie McKnight just then, and there goes Lobb into the lane.
All right, let's see here. The thing is that he won't get much of a benefit from this safety car stop, apart from fresher tyres and the drivers around him, because everyone else, they're allowed to hustle here at full pace. There's no such thing as safety car deltas that need to be met here, unlike in real-world conditions. So Scott Gamble was full tilt here, try and make sure that there is no advantage to the 990 by coming in here on a safety car. Question is, will this be advantage Lobb as he now sits waiting for the service to complete?
No, Gamble's got him, for sure. He's already on the straight. It's not even close.
There's a way in indeed. You'll see the number change there.
Yep, so he's picked up the race lead, but he's got heat, he's got circulation in those tyres, and that is going to be Darren Lobb ready to throw everything at him. And for the second time this season, Brenton Nietzsche is into P3. What's happened to Jeff Thomas and Travis Hunt? They've fallen well by the wayside, because now Matt van der Kraan is back to 4th, Michael Stewart is up to 5th, Thomas is 6th, Christelle 7th, and Travis Hunt's 8th.
Yeah, he will be if he was
8th.
Yeah, he will be 8th if he reappears on screen here in a moment. Behind Christelle. Worryingly, he is dropping down the order on our timing screens. We still have him on the Zoom feed, so hopefully for him,
oh, he's done. He's
popped back into existence. But yeah, no sign of news just yet. Oh, yep. VI headsets come off the head of Travis Hunt, unfortunately. Talking with Jeff Thomas.
So that will be race. That won't be just Jeff Thomas. Will be any viewers that are watching along for Travis Hunt as well. So obviously the connection to everything else is just the connection to the iRacing server. It's dropped out, unfortunately, for Travis Hunt. And dropped out the server he has now, which is a shame, because he was on for another top 10 finish. He was sitting in 8th at the time. Damien Cairns, John Latham and David Nash will all be elevated spots into the 10. This is an opportunity, though, for Brenton O'Brien, Todd Duggan to get a lap back. Scotty Van Loon and Talianchich has already gone for the night. So those are the cars that are 1 or more laps down at this point in time.
Now, while we're under safety car, what you want to see, I could get this to play ball here for us, but provisional championship standings coming out of racing action this evening. Although I need to go and see real quick. Go to. No, that's not quite playing ball, unfortunately. Oh. Maybe it is, and what it's doing there on screen for us is actually already taking into account the drop round for the season, because there is one drop round. Actually, let me, one moment, folks, just go and modify something.
Is that a dead heat for 3rd, as it currently stands?
There we go. It's just, so,
okay.
What is just updated, so what is now on screen is the raw points, so no drop rounds whatsoever. There is also the fact that there are 5 points that can be awarded post-race for not... for having 0 incidents at the end of the race. We can't add those in, but
There's going to be very few drivers tonight with that.
So with no drop rounds in this season, as they run right now, that is how the points stand. And there's also their gains and losses before coming into tonight's racing. If we add in the drop round, it'll recalculate here, by the looks of things.
I was going to say, Nitschke jumps a monster amount of points with the drop round added in. So he must have missed a round at some point, is effectively what I'm getting from that one.
If I could remember his driver ID, I'd confirm that for you by looking for a name with a 0 next to it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of driver IDs and I haven't memorized them all. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, just saying. I looked at it here and I was like, hang on a second, why am I looking at 9 points gained for Scott Gamble? Because of drop rounds not playing in. So what I'll do is I'll actually uncheck the drop round so we can have a look at how the points will be raw after tonight, and also means we can see that Jeff Thompson's championship. This is a good race for him because he leaps 14 spots if he can hang on to a P6 finish.
But how about Nitschke and Van der Kraan? Remember we were only talking, last season about how good Van der Kraan's been doing. Yes, he's led laps tonight, but at every stage I've sort of been sitting there going with a question mark next to his name. So
Now,
he's resolved that, and he will crack on.
Okay, how about this? Okay, that number next to his name in white, that's his championship position without a drop round. I add that drop round back in. He gains 15 positions by playing with drop rounds or not. My word, that is certainly something he'll like to see.
There you go. All right. Well, he's in with an opportunity, and he's in with a big opportunity. Michael, this would be an awesome opportunity for Michael Stewart to get in here and nick a podium as well.
Well, we'll have to worry about that another time. Unfortunately, we'll worry about that another time because the safety car is coming in. The field is now in the hands of Scott Gamble for the first time this evening since the start of the race, having lost the lead practically from the get-go to Darren Lobb. So,
and we'll have 12 laps, Dan. We'll have 12 laps. So it's not quite a sprint. It's a little bit longer than that, but it's not quite a feature. So it's effectively 50 kilometres we've got to go. And we're going nice and early because Scott Gamble has indeed already gone, and Darren Lobb's going to go along with him. This is the restart. This is the run down to the flag. Who's going to finish this one on the podium? Is Nitschke going to nick his second podium of the season and set up a run for that third place spot in the championship? All to be decided. Don't turn off your internet browser. Don't turn off your computer. Leave it where it is, because the racing action, if it wasn't already monumental, it's about to get absurd.
As your leaders file on through turn one here on this second race restart. It's gone so early that it's, for the most part, fanned the field out in a really orderly single file queue there. And he's not bad turn 2 or turn 3, it feels like, because all of a sudden Darren Lobb has cut that margin back down from what looked like about 4 car lengths to 2 at best. As he then round turn number 4 here, and immediately, because he's got very narrow there on the exit. Just wondering here, those couple of laps.
Fresh tyres, man.
It's the tyres that you're not wrong there. It was only 4 laps of running. It's enough. He would have been absolutely pounding on them to make sure that he got out in front. But it makes him vulnerable. Darren Lobb most certainly will be liking the look of this because there is no pressure from behind Nitschke. Scott Van der Kraan to potentially worry about more so than trying to stay with the top 2 here as they come into the hairpin here at racing speed once more.
Whoa, pinch of the front brakes for Gamble. He's feeling the pressure, and Darren Lobb is liberally applying it to the rear bumper of the Scott Gamble 5-4-3 machine. And have a look what's going on in the background for this one. Michael Stewart has gone into a ghost, such as his effort that he's applying to that steering wheel. Somebody has knocked that webcam slightly to the left-hand side, unfortunately, and it's pointing in the wrong direction. So somebody tell Michael Stewart's graphics no longer working, but hey, the racing is working, and He's in with a shot here. He's in 5th place. He's looking at the rear bumper of Matt van der Kraan. We probably need to talk about laps that these pits on. Nitschke 23, van der Kraan 22, Stewart 23. So there's nothing in between these guys. Tyre life is all very, very similar, and they would have cost too many positions to go searching for a fresh set of rubber.
Yeah, this was certainly going to look at the front of the field. There's nothing in it here between Lobb and Gamble. Here we go, inside for turn 4. He will show up to the inside. Gamble does hang on. Round the outside.
Gamble's run deep, and now he's going to get a little bit of the chin music all over the rear bumper. And now Lobb looks narrow. No, he's going to cross it back over. Gamble had to defend. Cut that line away. Now Lobb's right there, right to the bumper. Nitschke's sitting on with the front row seat. I think he's got the popcorn oven going, and he's about ready to add butter and enjoy.
Exactly what they need. I would have to say they don't quite have the pace if it's top 2, but if Scott's willing to prepare maximum defense here and Darren Lobb is willing to respect the defense for a little bit here, at least, that will set things up to be one heck of a grandstand finish and be certainly more than 2 cars in with a chance. But everyone behind Brendan Nitschke are going to have to get in the line and put their best foot forward indeed. Trouble on the radio perhaps further on back down the field.
Nash was the driver that was on the radio. And there's cars backwards, so we're on the verge of another potential safety car. They are running at least, so we will kick on a little bit more. Is that Crosby? Oh, no, it's not Crosby. It's okay. It's Stephen Kennedy. I was thinking Crosby was having a good night as well. I shouldn't say that out loud because he won't be having a good night. John Latham is coming to the penalty. This will be a drive-through penalty.
Here's black flag to his name. Unfortunately, has indeed pushed the limits a bit much and has to pay the price. Meanwhile, at the front of the field again, Gamble.
Stop.
Hopefully he won't. He'll just he has come to a stop on his box. Maybe that penalty is going to be forced to be served as stop and hold, which is brutal. In that case,
no, he's done. He's done for the night, I think. Is the issue for John Latham. Anyway, it's going to kick on between our front 2, and I can tell you Michael Stewart's starting to get a little bit closer in behind these guys to the rear bumper of Van der Kraan, and that means that Jeff Thomas is starting to buy into this picture, as is Crisdale. You can just see them lining up here a little bit in the background, and there's just daylight behind these guys before we'll throw it back to Cairns, who's having another good night in P number 8. I said that about him on Tuesday night when he was running in this S5000 league, and I said it about a lap too soon, because very, very soon after that, he was having a torrid time.
Christian Smart in a turn, 5? Something's happened to him here on this lap, which saw him drop a whole bunch of spots. We'll have to see if we can pick up what happened to him there and explain what happened there later on in the race. But yeah, this is certainly becoming a boiling point, because Matt van der Kraan can't seem to go with Brendan Nitschke here, but Michael Stewart and Jeff Thomas, they sure want to go with him. And the longer this happens, as you see there in the background, Robert Crisdale will be eyeing things off. But at the same time, Van der Kraan and Thomas in particular, they'll be looking for a strong result to try and eye off an improvement to their championship position. Back to the front though first, because Lobb is so close. But is he going to look this time? He goes to the inside. Scott's in so deep on the anchors to make sure he holds that spot in the lead.
Yeah, and Lobb's just he's just braking early, shows the nose, forces Gamble to cover him off, and he's opening up. I think Lobb thinks his best opportunity is down here at turn number 5, so he gets the run off, turn 4. A run off of turn number 3, trying to get out, trying to get away from the dirty air. Darren Lobb shows the nose once more at turn number 4. Once more, a little bit of the bump. There's no run this time, so no penalty gets applied. They still hold positions, but they fight a little bit tighter. Maybe it's turn 5. Is he sizing him up? Those tyres get more worn. Whilst ever he's sitting in that dirty air, Scott Gamble's looked at the rear bumper of Darren Lobb all night. After qualifying on pole, he's back to the lead of the race, and this time it's Lobb who's going to have to go on the offense.
See there, able to work a lot more, getting over the anti-cut there. It's a good run indeed. Go on board here with Lobb as he tries to set it up, but Gamble's going to cover the inside, force him around, but on the racing line here into turn 10, he wobbles on the way in, and he's in the gravel.
He's just gone so wide down in there. He was trying to create the moment. He did create the moment. He created the opportunity. Through goes Nitschke. Through goes Van der Kraan, Stewart, Thomas Crisdale. Lobb drops from 2nd back to 7th. in the space of a couple corners. He's going to pick Crisdale back up. This one's not done yet. Lob's chances of a race win have fallen by the wayside. Now Gamble's got control. Nitschke is on for his best finish of the season. He was celebrating a third place a couple weeks ago from the streets of Detroit Belle Isle. It's back to second place, and Vanderkran's on the podium. Will Michael Stewart spoil the party? There's smoke in the background as well.
David Nash slow on the inside there, and the smoke coming from his rear tyres. By the looks of things, we'll pick that up in a moment. As we see here, Damien Cairns under all kinds of pressure from Chad Lewis, and also Scott McCune shadowing them in the background too for the final spots in the top 10 of this race.
Please don't touch Scott McCune. Please don't touch Scott McCune. Please let him have a top 10 finish.
David Nash, meanwhile, self-inflicted on actually all kinds of smoke to pull it up and prevent it from going all kinds of sideways there. But good stuff there, recovery from David. Here's another angle of what happened to Darren.
He's just in deep. He knows it. Touches that white line as the track sort of transitions. There's a little bit of a bump there as the old Formula One hairpin takes place. There's a slight transition. It's not much, but the narrow V8 supercar tyres, all the weight of these cars down on those anchors, trying to get something done. He's boulder wide.
Yeah, and the rears just lock ever so slightly, which can also be a case of just not quite getting the blip perfectly right. But back to live pictures. He has again. There's again. I think he's actually throwing in hot here because it's the second time from the outboard shot there. We just saw him have to correct right. To me, that says he's not quite getting the engine braking perfect. As he puts it down in maybe third or second gear there, it's just complaining and locking the rear axle up on him there. And he's having to then fight it. And yeah,
all the way through 11 as well.
And he's leaning on this car now. He's going to make up every spot he can. Maybe get back to second place, but that will be quite the ask if he can do it.
Here's the thing, ladies and gents. I've commentated Darren Lobb for a long, long time. I actually got to go race NASCAR with him on last night. And he is just fun-loving. He's out there, he's having a blast. It doesn't matter. He's here for the thrill of the hunt, and he's here to have a go and put it in on spots and try different things. That's what he enjoys out of motor racing, to put it all on the wall, to leave it all out the track, and he's done that yet again here tonight. And hasn't come his way, and sometimes when you're racing as hard as he is, it will go that way. Stewart's opportunities on a podium are fading fast. We are 7 laps to go. It's more like 6.5 laps to go now. We're down to about a 25-kilometre race. And I've driven to friends' places that are further away than this one, but also a little bit closer as well.
Evenly matched, though. Moments like that, that's going to hurt Michael Stewart's chances of sticking with Vanderkran for that P3 battle that could be brewing here. He needs to avoid those kind of moments, that's for sure, and be able to keep himself in the running, because, yeah, Darren Lobb is closing down quick. I think realistically for Darren Lobb, he's looking at Matt's position there in third place and saying, that's mine, I'm having it back. I'm having that back at the very least, because for Matt, he's unfortunately checking or dropping back relative to Reggie Nitschke. As I switch the tower over to intervals rather than the gap to the lead. You can see there it's now 2 seconds from Nitschke to Gamble. A little bit. It's not enough though. He's going to need more than this to make it work. But nevertheless, as they cross the line on that last one, he picks up another 10th.
Well, it's about 1.5 tenths, about 1.5 to 1 3/4 tenths he's going to need to take every single lap. He's still down here. He's still in the 43s from Nitschke. Surely Gamble's got enough fuel. It was a safety car. He added enough fuel to get to the end of the race and a green flag running. Surely this book doesn't have another strange ending to come our way.
I don't believe so, no. His total box time is over 36 seconds. Which is more than enough time to get the fuel in that's required for this race. And as you said, 2 safety cars will have given a bit of fudge factor to those numbers as well. Unfortunately, I can't look up his previous box time. I can only look at his last time, but I do remember it being a high 18-second stop. It's a high 18-second stop for the green flag, one that he took. And yeah, that would paint to me that he should be fine. It may be just a case of having overworked those tyres in that attempt to undercut Darren, which did work, mind you, but all the same, paying a little bit of the price here on the other side as Nitschke continues to try and keep him honest to the end of this race.
But Nitschke pit before him. Nitschke went 3 laps earlier, so unless, yeah, you're right, Gamble's just pressed on with those tyres, but also the defence that he's had to mount. In the meantime, Nitschke was just sitting there and taking care of the rubber, was just putting himself in all the right positions and just watching on. In the meantime, though, Stewart is coming back a little bit at Van der Kraan, and Lob is coming at Stewart a lot more so than it is in the forward direction for Stewart. So Stewart's going to have to defend in that rear view mirror and try and press on all at the same time. It's now down and under that half second. The fastest lap of the race has been set by Darren Lob, but now he's got overtaking to take into things, and this is not an easy overtaking circuit, as was witnessed when he tried to mount the assault on Scott Gamble.
So much load required through these cars that, yeah, you're just easy getting the line right and making sure that you're not overdriving it. There isn't a lot of margin left for overtaking options. You can get it done under brakes in a few spots here. It's all about setup and execution, and yeah, just the right amount of defense can be enough to hold on the spot, or as we saw, just gets a little bit of an error out of here, but never on this particular occasion. Has pulled in nearly 2/10 on Michael Stewart in the opening half of this lap at least. Darren Lob, depending on how well things go for him here in this middle part of the lap, will be either sizing something up early or at the very least waiting for turn 10 once again for the next prime opportunity, of course.
Well, you popped that, I think this is all down to you, Dan, why Darren Lob's made this mistake. You popped that graphic up the points on it. That's what happened.
If that's the case, well then guilty as charged, and
I'll start asking you to throw it up every time we get into a long run, every week from now on.
Well, that would certainly add a bit of spice to the equation. You're not wrong there, that's for sure. See here, it's for Stewart defensive on the way through turn 11. Although
can't get it done.
Quite cut back underneath, and yeah, the corner's so long, so loaded that it's a real struggle to be able to crisscross someone there and position something for turns, final two turns, but he'll go the inside of the final turn because Michael Stewart just a little wide there on entry, and that's all enough of an invitation that Darren Lob needs to make things work here into turn 1. This is now almost certainly his place, signed, sealed, and delivered. Still has to finish the job, but Stewart being a little conservative there in turn 1. He'd rather finish the race in P5 than have something go horrendously sideways there, trying to hang on to P4.
There was a few notes that come out of that one. Stewart was wide at 11. He was defensive at 11, wide at 12, wide at 13 and out of position. So settle that one up. And that one made it easy for Darren Lob. Scott Gamble was not making it easy for Darren Lob, and it would have taken a mistake from Gamble to do that, even with the older rubber. But now he's got his eyes set on Van der Kraan. Van der Kraan's got 1.3 or so seconds at the moment. Defense to work with, and it's going to take effectively 0.3 of a second a lap to get there on the final lap, and even then there's going to be margin left over for Van der Kraan. So Van der Kraan's just got to worry about pulling the car up nice and cleanly, and the rest will take care of itself. There'll be another podium here for him. In the meantime, Gamble stretched the legs a little bit. In the meantime, at this battle, Cairns has made a mistake at the chicane. Here comes Lewis. McCune's there and in behind these guys as well. Here's McCune looking on for potentially the scraps of what's left over, because right now Chad Lewis has turned on the afterburner. It's going to be the exhaust pipes in the face of the 727's front splitter, and I hope that it hasn't melted a little bit. There's downforce missing off the front end. McCune gets his nose chopped off as he was starting to look down the inside at the hairpin at turn number 10. So Lewis is on the offense, on the defense, all at the same time, and McCune might just come away with a bit more than P10.
Trying to set the line up right. Lewis is almost at the limits there through penultimate corner. It's a little neater and tidier this time though, as that sets back off after Damien Cairns. That moment there costing him a good half second or so, as we've got 3 laps left in this race as we come across the start finish line for this bunch of drivers here. Plenty of scrapping up and down the field. In fact, yeah, but this can effectively go all the way back to Bruce Tannick. It's kind of unbroken. Bit of a stretch, but call it.
Matt Van der Kraan is down to only 0.9 of a second, so Lob is coming with the right amount of pace. I just think where he's going to get the move done is he's just going to run out of time is effectively what's going to happen here. In the meantime, running wide is Chad Lewis. That was Dan Hall yet again, which is right at the back end of this one, so that's going to present an opportunity for Bruce Tannick. This is where he picked up a penalty earlier in the race for getting down the inside and into someone. And now he'll be forced to sit and watch Dan Hall and have a look at the cars snaking their way through. The view from the rear bumper. Darren Love's DPR Ford Mustang is approaching Matt van der Kraan, but he's running out of time. It's down to 7.5 tenths of a second. He's close. He's nearly doing what he needs to do from Darren Love, but slightly wide at turn 10 means that he loses some of those tenths that he worked so hard to gain. He's got to be perfect. Van der Kraan's got to make a mistake. And the podium place is the stake of this assault from Darren Love.
I have to say, this could be interesting, that's for sure, because I bring up lap times, and you'll wait for them to both cross the line on this particular occasion. Darren Crosby on the radio's had a moment. Well, that lap there, Matt van der Kraan can't afford to have another one of these. Half a second lost.
Well, he's right on the limit of what he can and can't do because there's 2 laps left to go. He can lose half a second, and then he's still got room to defend with if he just gets defensive. Have a look at the lines as they come around turn number 3. Look at Lob loading the steering axle in. Look at the rear end wiggling as those rear tyres get hot. If they got incident points to burn, now is the time to burn them. There's only 2 laps left. You don't have to go much further. In the meantime, how's the battle down there for 8th position at this point in time as well? Because McCune has got through on Lewis, and McCune! I just said he got through! I've got to stop saying good things about him because he got through, and now he's gone, and now Lewis goes around, and McCune's going to couple whack. They're all getting involved in this one, and it's not done yet. When the 2 laps left to go marker kicks off, so does all the shenanigans.
My word. I was been hoping to put Jason Fuellens up on screen at some point because drivers who brought in Zoom feed this evening, Jason's the one driver I hadn't had a chance to do so yet, but apparently there goes the opportunity, well, there's the opportunity to do so right there and then. As all kinds of fire and flames erupts there at the end or start of lap 42 of this race for this bunch of drivers. Pardon me there.
And it's race control's got something to kick on with in this one as well. We saw Fuellens talking away madly. He was actually talking to race control at this point in time. We're coming to the white flag. There is one more lap to go. Have a look at Darren Love. He needed to make time. He has made time. It's 2 tenths of a second as they cross the start-finish line. 1 lap to go. How wide can the rear bumper of the 180 Ford Mustang get? Love thinks about it. Love gets to the inside. There's a nose there. If he turns down Matt van der Kraan, he will get turned. So he's had to run it. The wider entry, he left a little bit of space. Lob is still there. Still 2.5 tenths of a second. He's wide. He gets a whack. He gets another whack. He gets a 3rd whack. It's not done quite yet. Matt van der Kraan has got 3rd place, but he is getting roughed up by Darren Lob, and there is contact multiple times as they run through turn number 3. V8 veterans Vindaloo, your curry's nearly served. The final few ingredients yet to go on the pot.
Half a lap left in this one here as Lob, I think more a case of just getting a tiny touch in the back of Van der Kraan, whether that's even Van der Kraan trying to get the power down through 3 to set that one up there, all things considered. But as you said, comes 2 taps, becomes 3 taps as they're trying to untangle themselves through turn 3. But look at the confidence through that sweeper here onto this back stretch here. Surely inside needs to be covered by Van der Kraan. He will cover. Can Darren Love just swing around the outside?
Oh my word, you hold your breath. You hold it, you hold it, you hold it, and Darren Love holds it. Down and around the outside, Van der Kraan's front tyres are gone. The rear end of that car was not waggling. It's the opposite for Darren Love. His rear tyres were waggling. Now Van der Kraan's wide, catches the sand as he comes through turn 11. He'll lose P3. Scott Campbell manages to go ahead and grab that 1st place finish. Nishiki home in 2nd. Lob will finally play a little bit of music. He runs the xylophone across the rear bumper of Matt van der Kraan and comes away with one cleanly at the last. He gave it back and they continued on fighting, and that is V8 supercar racing at its finest. Stewart is deep in the pack. He's back to 16, so he's had blues in the final couple of laps as well.
My word, where did he drop out of?
Is he out of fuel? Don't tell me he's out of fuel.
He is. On board live with him now. That is the sound of a very empty tank. And oh, I just need to know, when is that coughed before we wrap things up. apologies there. It's already gone. Oh, it's already out. And it was out all the way back here. No wonder he's lost a metric tires, because there goes Van. Yeah. Oh, dear me.
Ow. That says to me he was never making the end of the race.
He did one stop for 29 seconds of fuel. And unfortunately...
And that's somebody... Was that Christian Smart diving to serve a drive-through penalty on the last lap? So he'll still cop that penalty. He can't serve it on the final lap of the race.
That will hurt him, that's for sure. Just waiting to see if everyone's across the line. I think everyone is.
Yes, we are. No, there's one. There is one.
Todd Duggan.
And he's run out of fuel. He didn't make... How?
Simply a case, Scott, of drivers a little aggressive on the fuel number there, thanks to the safety cars this evening.
You have to be massively aggressive on the fuel number, Dan. There was one driver who pitted it. There was my apologies. There was two drivers who pitted under that caution period, which means they weren't making it under green flag conditions.
Oh yeah. Let's have a look here. Todd Duggan. One pit stop, 39 seconds, which by that metrics should have been enough to make it home, but apparently not. In the case of Michael Stewart, one stop for 29 seconds. That's the one that's a little more suspect for me based on my numbers. It was about 5 seconds short on fuel, which is a good 14, 15 litres. Yeah, he tried to conserve there, but unfortunately, that is going to do him for the end of the race. And now time to turn to our provisional race results here as things stand at the end of that one here. 2.5 seconds the margin for Scott Gamble to take his third win of the season here ahead of Brendan Ishki, who indeed does one up his P3 result at Belle Isle, makes it P2 here at Barcelona. Darren Lobb recovers to third place finish there, able to edge out Matt van der Kraan, who will have to settle for a P4 tonight. Jeff Thomas, next of the best of the rest, as you could say, in P5 there. Good result for him all the same, but a little bit of a struggle for him.
V8 veterans Vindaloo, Dan Yeaman. First, take a V8 supercar. In fact, let's take 40 of them. Let's take them to Spain for an open-air cooking environment. Add in safety cars, 4 tyres, and a fuel strategy. Stir, set on the stove, and allow to reduce. Over time, you'll be left with what we've just witnessed in front of us. My word. You said last week was insane. Last week, I'm assuming, was insane for a completely different reason than that was.
It was. That was the slow burner. We got firecrackers last week. That one came together quite nicely at the end, that's for sure. But we'll carry on through the top 10, that being Robert Crisdale there behind Jeff Thomas for P6. Damien Cairns is elevated to P7 in all of the melee at the end. Same for Chris Miller, jumping up into P8. This one here, he is only half a second ahead of Stewie Hall there in P9. Rounding out the top 10, Paul Warwick in the 050. Makes himself up some spots there in that race.
Oh, word. Was that Chad Figure in P11? Scott McCune will finally get home in P number 12 after all the chaos that unfolded in the final moments of the race. Dan Hall, 13th. Flavel, 14th. Michael Stewart runs out of fuel on the last lap for 15th. Hallel Cesar. Tim Nicol had another night at the office where he was playing Demolition Derby. No, he was just playing a little bit of Biff and Bam and Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am. Robbie Griffiths, Craig Friend, and Greg Sharp round out your 20. Rolling over the page to 21st on back is going to be Dave Nash, Bruce Tannock, the teammates from Ag and Turbo Motorsport 21-22, Travis Hunt, Chris Blanchard, Dave Kirby, Jamie McKnight 26th. He should have dropped one spot further back and finished 27th just to line everything up tonight. Chad Lewis, Michael Quain, and Peter Latham back in 30th. We're going to throw across to guys who had a torrid night at the office here in just a few moments. Dan, why don't you take us through them?
I will do. I want to just quickly note here, 23rd place Travis Hunt after disconnecting during a green flag run.
Yep.
He was.
Didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Now, there are waiver rounds in the series, so that is partly why he got that back, but he's then been able to carve his way back past everyone here that was still on the lead lap, which you can see goes all the way back to 38th place. That is no mean feat Travis there, and really does speak to his pace. Unfortunately, got a little bit lost in the chaos. But 31st tyre burn there in the 644 machine, comes home ahead of Steve Banks in the 077 to 32nd. Darren Crosby in behind him. Next pack, unfortunately, late trouble for him that we missed, but 33rd for the 66. 34th, Jason Fewens. That's unfortunate because he was up in and around 11th, so it's a post-race penalty of some sort issued out to Jason there in the 067, and 18 incident points takes him over the limit there at the end of the race. So unfortunately, that tumbles him down the order. Stephen Kennedy, 35th, 36th for Christian Smart in the 999 machine. Definitely a rough finish for him after being a bit more mid-pack. Brenton O'Brien, early dramas, tough recovery, ends up on the lead lap at least in 37th place. John Latham, a real shock over him as well, actually, ending all the way back in 38th, although that was an out of sequence. No, it was the drive-through penalty that he had to serve as well. He rounds out the drivers who finish on the lead lap. It's Todd Duggan and Scotty Van Loon to lead home those a lap down, with Todd unfortunately running out of fuel there. Would otherwise be classified on the lead lap, doing a bit of a Mike Taliantich a la Zolder there for him, unfortunately. The last couple of drivers all retiring from the race. 41st, Matty Parker. Andrew Hoffman in 42nd with his technical errors, unfortunately, seeing him out of things. Mike Taliantich, unexpected retirement there, 18 laps shy. Hopefully we'll have an answer for what that might have been at some point, whether it's tonight or before next week's broadcast. Keep you posted on there. And that was our starters and therefore drivers classified for the race. And saying that classification, not so much, because 75% would require that you do at least 33 laps. So Matty Parker might sneak in. He might be dropped out, though. Hoffman and Taliantich, definitely, unfortunately for them, big fat 0 in the point score for tonight's racing, with Robert Crow, Jeff Richardson, Neil Waters. They're meant to be down in other splits of the veterans. And with that all said and done, we can finally turn back our attention towards post-race interviews and grab our drivers from the podium. We'll start, of course, with our race winner. Once again, Scott Gamble makes it another victory for him here in the V8 Veterans. Well done again, Scott. Had to work for it again with Darren keeping you honest there in that race once again, which is always good to see here on a Thursday night. But just able to exercise a bit of a small error from him there late in the race, which helped you out.
Yeah, how you going, Dan and Scotty? Lobby kept me real honest. He's super fast, and I actually thought he was going to get me in that last stint when that safety car come out, and I knew he had those 3-lap newer tyres, and I'd sort of used mine, and yeah, that undercut I'd got was diminished. I thought, oh, here we go. But yeah, he made a bit of an error. He was aggressive after the start, and I was like, hey, let's try and get out and then fight. But yeah, I could see what he was doing. He wanted to use his new tyres, get the lead, and if he'd got the lead, I doubt I would have got him back.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good point. We did see it looked like you were struggling there, and be able to confirm for us there as well that, yeah, you worked your tyres pretty hard there before the safety car to try and make the undercut valuable to you there. But in a situation like that where you get the lead of the race there, but then you're potentially vulnerable thanks to how hard you were trying to push, presuming perhaps that things would stay green to the end from there. And as you said that, you were expecting him to get past there, I guess. But you put everything on in terms of defensive moves where you needed to. I guess the question is, was there any spot in particular you felt most vulnerable with the tyre difference?
I thought probably turn 1. That's where I was thinking he was going to get a good, good drive out of turn 13 onto the straight. And then I thought, yeah, if he got within 0.1 or 0.15, he was going to send it. And yeah, rightly so. So yeah, I thought turn 1 was where he was going to nab me.
Well, he certainly tried a couple of times, but turn 10 looked to be the spot he wanted to go for, and yeah, just didn't quite work out for him in the end. But another result for you, 3 wins this season now to your name. As we start looking into this second half of the championship, we head to Imola next week, and it'll be a big 300k race for you guys there, which means we should see 2-stop strategy once again come back into play. It's a classic and a favoured car and track combination from what I've gathered over the years, observing the V8 scene here on iRacing. Would you agree with that statement that it should be a pairing that goes well?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. It always seems to pop up. We always seem to be doing a lot of laps there, and it does provide some good racing. There is some good overtaking opportunities. They have tightened up the off tracks, especially through that chicane up the back, so that's a one to watch out for. But otherwise, it's a great track, provides good racing, and yeah, most of the drivers know it really well.
Well, that'll be one to watch for then for those who are here with us tonight, or if they're watching later on. In that case, see how things go come round 7. But before we wrap things up with you, Scott, who do you want to thank tonight for another of your race wins here this season?
Yeah, big shout out to the guys at WKNP SimSports. You know, they're a good bunch of lads. They've got a huge following here in the vet series all through the splits, so I hope they did well, and big shout out to them, and look forward to seeing how their results go. But to the guys and girls that make it happen, with Dogger Carts and Parts, Super Cheap Auto, Rebel Sports, BCF, MacPack, Pool Guys Adelaide, Barella Cabinets, Bay 21 Coffee Beans, LGC Images, Dave 37 Racing, and Wall Boys Motorsport. Big thanks to those guys, to yourselves over at SimSpeed. Always put on a great broadcast, and we're really fortunate to have you guys here broadcasting V8 veterans. It really does make it. To the admin and to Race Control, thank you, and to the drivers. Much better round. I thought it was a little bit cleaner, and yeah, we all sort of learned our lesson from last week. So yeah, well done, guys.
Indeed, did look like a good race out there on track despite the couple of safety cars, and certainly boding well for the next coming weeks. Scott Gamble, your race winner here tonight at Barcelona. Well, I'll hand to you here in a second, Scott. The other Scott, that is, as we'll bring in the man who has improved. Oh, sorry, I had him. I think you had him as well, and we've accidentally moved him back and forth, but I'll pass to you now and speak to Brenton Nitschke as he makes for his best result in the vets so far.
Brenton Nitschke, that took an experienced hand at strategy, that took a setup race, that took clean, concise driving and execution. And tonight you've pulled all of that one off in something that was a little bit different to the last time that we were talking to you here from the podium.
Yeah, it was a bit of a different race. I would normally probably 99 times out of 100 pit under the safety car when it comes out early. But I thought this week I'll do something different. I see it worked a little bit for a few guys last week. Yeah, so I thought I'd give it a go, and then I just, put the head down and got past, I can't remember who it was, and just I think it was Jeff Thomas after the pit stop, safety car, sorry. And then, just raced as hard as I could and try to get a gap, because I knew the guys that had pitted had probably, a 13, 15 second advantage by taking that fuel under the safety car. So I knew I had to get that gap on the guys that had pitted, so it was just flat out. And then obviously towards the end there, after the last safety car, running with Scott was, I gave that absolutely everything. I'm sitting here sweating at the moment still. It was, I gave it absolutely everything. I think had nothing left to give him in the end. So wrapped to come home P2. So yeah, it was awesome.
Mate, you mounted an assault. We watched that margin come down, and it has been very, very few drivers that have ever taken time out of Scott Gamble. That's just got to fill you with confidence going forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I had nothing left. That was me doing quali laps every single lap. I had nothing left. Can't sit here and say, oh yeah, I had a little bit left. I literally had nothing. So I'm not sure if he was pushing hard or if he was just sitting there with the arm out the window. I'm not sure, but I definitely gave it everything. So I tried to get there, but just couldn't do it. And then the last 3 laps or so, I drifted back a little bit. I was spent. I just killed the tyres being behind him so much. So yeah, unfortunate, but gave it everything.
Mate, 2 podiums in a season. We've seen you sort of crawling in and around that top 10 over the last couple of seasons. Has not necessarily been standout performances. This season, something's changed. Can you put your finger on what it might be?
Just a few more laps, obviously, during the week. A bit more practice, had a bit more time. My personal life's been a bit busy over the last 6 months or so, so haven't had massive time during the week to get on and practice. And unlike this season, I've done quite a lot of laps. Over 100 laps every week on a track. So just putting the laps in. Pretty much as everyone says, bum in the seat and just going for it. So it's been probably 4 or 5 seasons since I've won a race in the vets here, so it'd be good to one day take one, but the field's a lot stronger than it was 5-6 seasons ago, so it'll be good.
And mate, finally the opportunity for you to give sponsor shout outs, man. That was an epic drive here tonight, so I know there's going to be a lot of thanks coming.
Yeah, cheers. Big shout out to Juiced Energy. He's been on board for a few seasons now, a few years, sorry. Racecraft, SimRigs, SimMagic, the Pet Dog Company. Yeah, thanks to all those that get behind us and help us out during the season.
Mate, congratulations on another podium finish. Well, might not be the last podium finish for you for this season at this rate. There might be another one somewhere mixed in amongst it as well. Congratulations tonight, mate, and hopefully we'll speak to you again before the season's out.
Cheers, thanks guys, have a good one.
Congratulations. Finally, Dan, I think you've got the one that's left. You probably put on the most amazing racing and the most exciting racing, particularly down at the tail end, but boy, I think you'll be a little bit miffed with P3 instead of P2, P1.
Maybe. I guess it depends on how Darren Lobb feels about the racing action. We'll bring him in now, indeed, and have a chat with him to round things out. Darren, well, maybe a case of you'd rather P1, but I hope you say you're happy walking away with P3, despite what happened there at the end of the race as you tried to battle with Scott.
Yeah, it's never fun having to admit you ran out of talent, but I did it on the most spectacular platform there and completely ran out of talent and lucky to salvage third. But yeah, well done to Scott. Yeah, it's the safety car really gave it to me there, put it down on a platter, and I just couldn't get the pass done. He was just too quick in the right places, and I made the mistake. So yeah, you got to put your hand up sometimes and go, yep, I'll take third. I wish it was first, but it wasn't.
Mate, at least the pit lane errors from last night have gone the other way. That last lap stoush with Matt van der Crown, it looked like he was struggling for front tyres. It looked like you were struggling on the rear tyres. And that's just, you gave it back to him and said, hey, yeah, look, I can't do it with the bump and run, and went and stole it off him in the late part of the lap. How good is it being in and amongst the veterans community where you're given a lot of room, you're given a lot of space, and at the same time you can go, yep, look, I've made a mistake here, have it back, let's go racing again.
Yeah, it's good fun. I think I've come in a little bit more aggressive than what everybody else is. I hated to dust up Matty there. I didn't mean to. He had driven really well. He wasn't blocking or anything like that up to that point. I just, he kind of took a deeper line, and I thought I'd get the drive down to the curb. And, I don't know if he just got a little bit loose and it helped the car turn towards the curb, and I tagged him. And then that secondary tag was just completely accidental.
It's just racing. That's just racing.
And I thought it was going to put me in the wall. So it was nice that we kind of held that position. I didn't hold that position intentionally with him. I would never have gone past him with a move like that. But yeah, then he kind of made it a little bit easy for me right at the end. I don't know if he was high on incident points, but yeah, it's a pity to kick someone off the podium like that on the last lap, particularly when they deserve it quite well, because it's strategy that those guys took on taking that early safety car. They really put themselves against it. So, it's nice to see Brenton up there. It would have been nice to see Matt. I would have loved to be on first, but yeah, nice community, nice racing. I wish I could have made it more of a race towards the end, but anyway, there's always next week.
There's always next week, indeed. And I mean, just watching it back on the slow-mo actually right now, actually got a chance to see it, as you said, Matt a little wide there through turn 3. You just happened to catch him in the bumper, and it is what it is, and you've made sure to make sure that you could carry on as you were and get the spot later in the lap. But I mean, speaking of next week, heading to Imola, which, hearing from Scott Gamble a moment ago, he said looking forward to that one and should be a good combination. It'll be the next of the second and last of our 300k rounds here in the V8 Veterans for season 16. So it's going to be a long one. We're expecting 2-stop strategy, which will mix things up a little bit more once again. Thoughts on the car track combo from your perspective before we wrap things up?
It's probably one of my favourite combos for the supercar. We haven't been there for a while in any kind of leagues, I think, for a while. But it's a really, really cool setup. It's you got to jump the curbs through the first sector and probably even the second sector, and then the next sector is really just flowing it, not jumping curbs, and then trying to make it through the last chicane with up 1Xs. So it's a really, really cool track. It's nice that we're going to be doing a long race there as well. Although it kind of kills us guys in New Zealand, it wrecks you on Friday. So I'll make sure that Friday is not a highly competitive work day, and have a little bit of a sleep in and enjoy the 300k race the night before.
Does sound like a good plan indeed. Well, Darren, before we sign things off, who do you want to thank for the third place finish here tonight?
Just my team, DPR. Thanks for the guys for all the support. My local sponsor that I've mentioned a couple of times now here in New Zealand, Man on Racing Products. And you guys for putting on a great broadcast. I got to give a shout out to our Scotty for dusting me up in the NASCAR racing yesterday. I don't like having to talk to him today and be friendly with him about it, but I'll return the favour next week and I'll push him to the bottom step of the podium. But thanks guys, look forward to it, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, it's on. It's on. Fisticuffs at Michigan. It is on.
Oh, the bust-ups. Here we go, man.
Been a pleasure racing you on Wednesday nights, mate, and then calling this as well. It's really good to chat. All right, boys, that is just going to be about it, ladies and gentlemen, from here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. It has been another curry served up with spice, sugar as well. I've gone the wrong way about that. Sugar, spice, and everything nice, as well as some bump and grind as well. Maybe that's how you add the salt. You just sort of crack over the top, apply liberally with the salt. Imola, it is a tricky one. It's all about curbs. It's all about flowing the car. It's another track where you do have to look after the tires, Dan, and 300 kilometers from it. Not the same speeds of the racing as we've seen here from Barcelona.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an absolute a slog. I mean, yeah, to do it on a Thursday night is also a particularly nasty bit of work. But as I was saying there, Darren, it's our last of our 300k races. In fact, I'll bring up the schedule, which we haven't shown all season long, pretty much since the opener. And we're coming into round 7 of 10. And then from there, we'll batch you back up the 300k race with the second, or the third. Actually, no, that's the 300 is the longest. We've had 260 at Belle Isle. We're coming to our third longest race of the night, the week after, at the Red Bull Ring for 250k. And then a couple of shorter, distance-based races, but the lap counts will be high as we head to Winton and Oschersleben for the first time in V8 Vets to round things out for season number 16. But that is indeed going to do it here from us this evening for the racing action. Congrats once again to Scott Gamble for his third win of the season, but also to Brendan Nitschke for his best season result, and Darren Lobb another podium to his name for round number 6 here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Big thanks to all the sponsors here that make the V8 Vets Championship possible. Logitech G there as the main sponsor, along with Parramatta, Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, and Nova Sim Sports. Thanks for the V8 Vets team for having us on board here at SimSpeed to broadcast this series. My name is Daniel Yeaman. It's been Scott Rankin alongside me here for the coverage tonight. Thank you all very much for watching, whether it's been live here across Facebook, YouTube, and Kick, or whether it'll be on demand later on. Until next time, whether it's Thursday night for round 7 of the Vets or anything else here on SimSpeed TV in the coming days and the week to come as well, hope you have a good time until later on. Bye for now, but not forever.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.